In this video we're going to change over the door hinges on a Hotpoint RFA52 fridge freezer. It's an easy job, but one you may not feel comfortable doing until you see what's involved. Not all units are exactly alike, but the basic procedure is pretty much the same. Just for safety's sake, remove the mains power plug. Although you won't be dealing directly with anything electrical, it's a good policy to unplug all appliances before commencement of any work on them. This is a new unit, so there's nothing in it, but the normal procedure would be to empty the fridge door of all produce. That's eggs, milk, lard, etc. You can leave the contents of the fridge and freezer in place, but if you have any loose liquid in the fridge, then take it out. By loose I mean anything that's in a bowl or jug that could spill out, because we now need to tilt the unit backwards. If possible, rest it on a wall or get someone to hold it while you work on the lower hinge. Close both doors and start by unbolting the bottom hinge plate. There are 3 bolts on this plate. 2 are exposed, as you can see, but the third is inside the front foot. Undo all the bolts and remove the hinge plate. The door sill magnets will hold it in place until you open it. Be careful at this point because it will drop down, and although it's not very heavy, it may get damaged if it's dropped on the floor. There may be a spacing washer fitted on the hinge shaft. This needs to be replaced when the plate is refitted. The centre hinge acts as a top hinge for the freezer door and a bottom hinge for the fridge door. Remove the 2 screws that hold it on, but be careful with the fridge door, it could drop down if not held. To change the top pivot pin over, you'll first have to remove the plastic fascia that runs across the top of the unit. Although the pin will just unscrew, it's best left in place until the fascia is off, or you may lose the internal nut when it's removed. Take out the 2 screws and bend the fascia backwards. It's held on by wedge grips at either end of it, so you may have to tug it a bit. The upper section is hooked into the top of the unit, so you can't just pull it straight out, it has to be tilted up and back. The clips hook into the cabinet at these points, and the 3 clips on top of the fascia are here. These are the wedge clips that hold it on. Try to be careful when removing it because they can snap off. Now you can remove the pivot pin and nut. Replace the nut on the other side and refit the pin. Refitting the fascia is much easier than taking it off. Just locate it in place and tap it in. Make sure the upper edge is located into the holes on top of the unit and refit the 2 screws. There are 2 indentations in the cabinet where the hinge screws will need to be fitted. Drill a pilot hole in both of them, smaller than the screw itself or they won't hold. Remove the outside screw and refit it on the other side. Screw the 2 hinge bracket screws in without the hinge in place first, just to cut a thread, or it will be even harder screwing them in with the door in place. Use a knife or a thin bladed screwdriver to prise up the nylon bush in the top of the fridge door and swap it over to the hole in the opposite corner. Because this is the top edge of the top door, there's no need for a blanking plug in this hole. Turn the door over and swap the pivot bush with the blanking plug. This bush may be in tight, but it will come out if you prise it up. Don't try twisting it with a pair of pliers because there's a notch on it that prevents it from turning once inserted. When you refit the bush, make sure it's all the way down, or the door may be higher than it should be. When you've done the fridge door, carry out the same procedure on the freezer door. Fit the fridge door onto the top pivot pin and hold it closed against the refrigerator while you locate the centre hinge. The magnetic seal around the door should take most of its weight while you fit the screws, and if you tapped out the threads earlier, then they should now go in easy. Before you fit the freezer door, reverse the pivot pin on the lower hinge bracket by unscrewing it, then turn the plate over and refit it on the other side, and be sure to refit the nylon washer. As with the centre hinge, you may wish to tap the holes for the hinge plate screws before actually fitting them, because although you will be screwing into foam insulation, the holes in the metal should already be there. You will need to put some pressure on the screw to get them started. Remove the screw-in foot and fit it on the other side. Slot the freezer door onto the underside of the hinge and close it. There are more magnetic strips on the freezer door, so it will stay put while you fit the lower hinge bracket. The last thing to do is cover up the unsightly screw holes left when I change the centre hinge pivot. I'm using a bit of white silicone here, but that's because of a white appliance. On darker units it won't show up so much, so you may not feel it necessary to mask them. On behalf of Selfix UK, we'd like to thank you for watching this video and hope you found it interesting. Goodbye.